Okay. Well, we're going to look at just some basic calculator stuff right now. We get to doing the relations so much that sometimes we forget where to just do our basic calculator. And then these are going to be some of the things that we need to know how to do in the calculator feature. And so I'm going to open up a new document. No, I do not want to save. And normally we've been going to graphs, and that's where we solve equations and we solve inequalities, and there'll be other things we do under graphs. But I just want to go to a basic calculator option. So I'm just wanting to do basic calculation. So you want to go to your calculator. Okay. One of the things we've been working on all year, something that the calculator doesn't necessarily handle very well, are minuses and negatives. So when you're working stuff out by hand, a minus and a negative can really be the same thing. But when you're plugging into the calculator, the minus and the negative are two totally different things, and you got to make sure you're plugging in the correct thing. So first off, this is my minus right here, and this is my negative down here. So when I'm looking at something, kind of the rule that I use is, in order to be a negative, it's got to be the beginning of something. So if it's the beginning of the problem, then that would be a negative. If it's the beginning of a parentheses, that would be a negative. If we had an equals -3, this would be the beginning of the second half. So if it's a beginning, then that would be a negative. If it's not a beginning, then it's going to be a minus. Okay, so if it's coming after something, or at least it's not the beginning, then it's going to be a minus. So even though this is kind of a simple problem, we have kids that mess this up all the time because they just simply don't get the minuses and the negatives right. So to start with, this 3 here is the beginning of my problem, so that would be a -3. So we would hit -3. This is not at the beginning of anything, so it would be -5, parentheses. Okay, the 4, that -4 is at the beginning. So it's the beginning of the parentheses, so that would be a -4. The 8, try to not give it away, but the -8, it's minus because it's not at the beginning of anything. So -8, close parentheses. Okay, this is one of the more common ones that people mess up on, is this one right here. Because it comes after a parentheses, but is it the beginning of anything? No, it's not the beginning of the problem. It's not the beginning of a parentheses. It just comes after the end of a parentheses. So if it's not the beginning of anything, it's a minus. So -7. So if you type that in correctly, then when you hit enter, you will get the correct answer. So we just want to make sure that as we're typing this in, and that's with equations, not just basic calculator, but anytime we put something into the calculator, we want to make sure we know if it's a minus or a negative. All right, so let's take a look at this next one right here. So we've been working on arithmetic and geometric series, and of course I typed this in thinking of the geometric series, and I forgot the geometric series, for that would be multiplication, but that's okay. We'll just plug this problem in right here. We're going to be looking at two things. One, how to do an exponent with this one, and then two, anytime you've got a negative number to an exponent, the calculator, and I say the calculator, it's all of math, but most people struggle with this. If you've got a negative number to an exponent, we need to put that in parentheses. So if we have a negative number right there, then we want to make sure that's in parentheses to this exponent, or the calculator will work it out the wrong way. So we're going to plug this in as -5, negative because it's at the beginning, plus, and then because this is, and normally we don't work on this, or at least I don't, until second semester, But because this negative number is to an exponent, I'm going to make sure that this negative number goes in parentheses. All right, so now I'm ready for this exponent right here. And so if I want an exponent, this is called the caret, but I always call it the housetop because it doesn't look like any carrot I've ever eaten. And so it does look like a housetop. So when you hit this, then it's going to allow you to type this 5 minus 1 in as exponents. So we can hit parentheses 5 minus 1, close parentheses. And now it's going to treat this as an exponent, which is what we want. So we hit enter, and we have our answer. Okay. So another thing that we may want to do from time to time is to turn a decimal into a fraction. And, you know, there may be some decimals that just are kind of complicated and it may give the calculator trouble, but most basic decimals the calculator will be able to handle. So if I put 0.45 in my calculator, but I want to do something to it, I want to turn it into a fraction. Well, when we want to do stuff, we're typically going to go to menu. So we're going to click on this menu, okay, and it gives us a few different things. We're going to look at number. We want to do something to the number. Well, what do I want to do to this number? I want to approximate to a fraction. I want to turn this into a fraction. So we hit that, and it's going to put this up. And I know that looks, you know, approximate to a fraction, and I know this right here looks really weird, but once you hit enter, it will convert our decimal over to a fraction, which is all we really care about. But even though this right here looks a little weird, the fact that it converted it over to a fraction is what we needed. And then it can not only, and this isn't on here, but since I'm thinking about it now, I'm going to go ahead and put in a fraction real quick and just show you that you can take a fraction and just simply hit enter, and it will reduce it for you. And so then if you want to take this right here and turn it into a decimal, now I could retype this in, but if I just go to menu, go back to number, and I'll say I want to convert it to a decimal, it's going to take my previous answer and convert it to a decimal. We've got 0.8. So it's not to say that there's not a whole lot more that you can do in the calculator function, but these are just some very basic things that you're going to see early on in the year. And the better you get at these, then the easier your life will be with this calculator. I hope this helps.